Welcome to a special edition of VLGA Connect. We thought at the end of each week we'd check in with Kathryn Arndt, the CEO of the VLGA, and just reflect on what's occurred over recent days. Kathryn, nice to see you. How are you feeling?
Oh, look, thanks, Chris. Nice to see you. I'm feeling a little weary, actually. It's been a big week. And
Plus, of course, you've come all the way back from San Francisco since we saw you last.
look, I have. And I've got to say my virtual trip there and back has been quite interesting. And I'm sure, like many of us, we're coming to terms with technology perhaps we haven't used a lot of in the past. And I was very fortunate that my 9-year-old daughter very happily assisted me to set up my virtual backgrounds. And at the time it was the choice of San Francisco or a purple dinosaur. So anyway, I've managed to work through that issue, and I think I'm getting closer to where I need to be.
I think the beautiful thing about this is we are just building on it as we go. It started out as an idea. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see if it's worthwhile doing. You've got a very nice professional VLGA Connect virtual background now, which I think is terrific. I've even got a VLGA backdrop because people are saying this is worth doing. Is that what you're hearing?
Oh, look, I think it is. And we might talk about perhaps going back to normality, but there's also an opportunity here to, I guess, bounce forward, and the opportunity for us to exchange conversation, ideas, and connect over virtual means now in this critically acute time, but also into the future is quite valuable. And it's another tool at our disposal, I think, and to have backdrops like you've got there and the ability to get this VLGA Connect up and running so quickly and respond so quickly in this situation has been worthwhile. And that's certainly the feedback that I'm getting from our members and the sector.
We've heard some really interesting and some sobering stories in the conversations that we've had in the first 10 episodes, would you believe, today of VLGA Connect. Yes. What has stood out for you, Kathryn?
I think what has stood out for me is the way that the journey started, and hearing from Councillor Susan Rennie, the Mayor of Darebin, early on, really brought home quite quickly the changing world that all councillors were facing at the moment. And in her interview, Susan talked a little bit about, as a mayor, getting used to what has been typically a very busy face-to-face diary, to how she continues to lead and support her community in a different way. And I think that that's a really important conversation to be having. The other thing, of course, was that even in this pandemic situation, progress and some business as usual continues. And we saw the passing of the Local Government Act 2020. It received royal assent. And fortunately, we had the expertise of Stephen Cooper, a former governance manager, to talk to us about what some of those new provisions meant for the sector.
And that's really prompted a lot of follow-on discussion, I've noticed, through various LinkedIn networks, which I think is a terrific thing if that can generate that awareness and that discussion.
Yeah, look, it sure is. And then to have followed on from that, the opportunity to hear from CEOs of quite large municipal areas such as Maribyrnong and Wyndham, Kelly Grigsby at Wyndham and Stephen Wall at Maribyrnong, just to hear how they're leading their teams in this very new environment and some of the business continuity planning that had to be put in place to help them follow this through and have the processes that will enable their staff to continue to deliver services to the community. So that was very worthwhile also.
And coming up, Kathryn, I've recorded an interview with Peter Brown at Colac Otway Shire, just to get another perspective again out in the regional areas where they're dealing with the influx or the usual influx they would expect of holiday home owners at Easter time, and a real challenging and complex issue for a lot of municipalities that see those influxes. And this holiday period is not going to be like one we've ever seen before.
Yes, and it's something that's been talked about a lot in today's media also. and how families are coping, and those holiday homeowners who are essentially being asked not to come to those communities for the good reasons that I'm sure Peter would have talked to you about. But the complexity of that, of course, is the whole issue of rates, the whole issue of stimulating those economies, those communities, and also not putting in place barriers or boundaries in a time when, of course, there are risks of not only the social isolation that comes from the physical distancing requirements, but also that inability of people to connect and be in those communities where they possibly would be normally at this time of year.
So we're working on a range of things for future episodes, and you've touched on one there. One I think we probably should spend a bit of time exploring is the economic ramifications of this on local government. With people expecting rate relief, some councils have turned off parking meters, for example, which is going to have an income on-flow for them in terms of reducing. It's a really challenging one that I think is going to be around for the next few months, isn't it?
Yes, I think there are a few ongoing issues that the sector will want to talk about amongst themselves, and the VLGA Connect platform provides that opportunity for councillors to do that, and for other policymakers. In fact, I had a conversation this morning with the Minister for Local Government, and he's very keen to come on and talk to us through VLGA Connect and talk about probably the three key issues that the sector is talking to him about at the moment, which of course is the timing of the elections, which are scheduled for October, the budgets that councils are required to submit by the 30 June, and also, of course, the current Act restrictions that allow councils to have formal council meetings virtually. So he's very well aware of those issues. He's listening to the sector and is working through a number of different possibilities in order to address those. Of course, at an operational level and individual council level, that issue of rate relief is something that councils are working through. As I think I said in one of my earlier interviews, it's not a simplistic matter to resolve, and will require a little bit of innovation, I think, and also, again, councils sharing their thoughts and having a look at other models that will help inform that.
I know you're reaching out across the sector to provide the opportunity for people to come and join us on VLGA Connect, and I'm looking forward to people right across the state taking advantage of that and hearing those stories. I think that's about all the time we've got for Kathryn. Any tips for the stay-at-home self-isolation period for people?
Look, I've just come up with a very innovative way that's helping me at the moment for my children. I'm not sure if you can see this, but it says, do not enter. And P.S., if you are very quiet while I'm in this meeting, you can have some ice cream. So, that's one tip from me. Of course, I'm still coming to terms with the fact that I am using my 9-year-old daughter's laptop because she has the best Zoom functionality. The password that I have to use to get into it, though, is baby brat demogorgon. And that is quite difficult for me to remember. In fact, I've had to stick it up somewhere in big letters so I can read it.
I think after all this is done, A, that password's going to need to be changed just in case you ever lose that laptop.
Absolutely.
And B, I hope there's no run on ice cream, because I think you're going to need a fair bit of it.
Yeah, that's true. And look, Chris, I just want to thank you for your work over the last week, where it's been terrific to have your involvement, and we're looking forward to it in an ongoing capacity. I really encourage our members and anyone, in fact, who would like to have a chat with us on VLGA Connect to do so. I think we've provided those details previously, but please get in touch. And next week, we've got a big lineup in store. I think we've got perhaps the integrity agencies coming to talk with us in a panel discussion. Hopefully we'll be able to schedule the minister in for next week, and also talk about some of the more, some of the issues that we haven't focused on, such as community mental health and wellbeing.
Yes, and gender equity in the COVID-19 world as well is on the agenda. If we can make all those happen in the next week, I'll be very happy. Thank you, Kathryn. Great to talk with you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, probably, on VLGA Connect.
Thanks, Chris.